So the first topic I wanted to talk about tonight is about nature mysticism. And so I just recently learned about this concept. I mean, I'd heard before about earth-based religions and kind of indigenous cultures that worship the earth. But I never really heard about nature mysticism before. I mean, I've heard a lot about mysticism because that was a big emphasis that my meditation teacher taught. And by mysticism, the definition I've heard, or how I use that word, to me, mysticism means a pursuit of the direct experience of the universal consciousness. So the way I think about mysticism, it's the pursuit of trying to feel within yourself your connection to the divine, your connection to the universe or to the earth or to God or whatever label you'd like to use for that universal presence. And so I've heard of mysticism before and really studied that a lot. But I never heard before about nature mysticism. And I just came across this in a book I was reading called The Christ of the Celts. It's about Celtic Christianity and Celtic spirituality. And so this is the first time I've heard of this concept of nature mysticism and the idea that through nature, by spending time in nature, that can be a spiritual activity. I mean, when I learned about mysticism through my meditation teacher, it was obviously just about the main route we explored for pursuing that divine that experience of the divine was through meditation. I think that's what's a lot of people commonly associate with mysticism is that idea of meditation. But with this concept of nature mysticism, the idea, or it's really appealing to me, the idea that by spending time in nature, that can help us feel our connection to the universe. And I guess this doesn't really sound profound when I speak about it, because I think a lot of us have a sense of this, but I've never really seen it spelled out before like this. This is why I'm really interested in this topic right now. And I kind of realized over the past 2 years, this is kind of what I've been stumbling into on my own. So when I left the Bay Area 2 years ago, I left my corporate life and kind of started on this semi-nomadic wandering life. I spent a lot of time in really small towns, a lot of time in living in places where nature was easily accessible. So I lived in some small villages in Costa Rica, and small towns in northern Wisconsin, where the big cities are far away, and when you step outside, you're in nature. Like when I'd step outside of where I was living, on either in the jungle in Costa Rica or in the great northern forest of the upper Midwest. And so, I spent a lot of time immersed in nature and away from cities. And when you spend a lot of time away from civilization, or in time spending, if you spend time not quite so fully civilized, not surrounded by buildings, not surrounded by all of the trappings of civilization, you really do kind of start to feel the presence of the universe around you in nature. And it's a really beautiful way to get in touch with that divine presence. And so I'm really excited to see this concept put into words. And and it's a so yeah sorry, this is a really big topic and I've been struggling how to talk about it. So if I'm a little tongue tied, it's because there's a lot of things, and I'm sometimes referring to my notes. So if I'm a little distracted, that's what but I was really struck by this idea that spending time in nature, which is something I've always loved to do and it's always really refreshing to me, but spending time in nature can be part of our spiritual practice, and it can be a very beneficial spiritual practice to help us feel that presence of the universe and help us get in touch with the divine within us. And and I think particularly spending time alone in nature. So it's really, it can be nice to go on a hike with friends and talk and spend time. But if we're talking to people, then our minds are still engaged in kind of the human world and the human intention. But when we spend time alone in nature or just quiet, silent in nature, that's when the sense of the universe really starts to sink in onto us. And I'm sure, I'm guessing probably some of you have experienced this on your own with your own time in nature. And it's a lot easier to feel in less populated areas. So up here in Humboldt County, it's a lot easier to feel all of the nature around us. In the places I lived over the past couple of years, where there's not so much urbanization and not so much of the structures of human attention that keep us locked into our limited human awareness. So when we're able to kind of get away from civilization, get away from the things of man, it's much easier to instinctively feel the universe all around us, to feel the divine all around us. And so I'm really interested and excited moving forward to about how this can be used as a spiritual practice, how we can help find within all of us our connection to the universe by spending more time in nature, which is something that I've always loved to do. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. I think a lot of us have that sense about how good it feels to be in nature and how refreshing it feels to be in nature. But I think we can take it even further, and we can, by spending time in nature, and especially if we go out into nature with the intention of opening ourselves to the universe, it can be a really powerful method for having a mystical experience, for feeling our direct connection to the universe.